Welcome back to Trying to Figure It Out. I'm Allie, and here on Trying to Figure It Out, we do exactly that. We try to figure everything out. We talk about things from divorce to friendships, relationships, family dynamics, childhood trauma, anxiety, mental health, literally everything you could possibly imagine. And this week on Trying to Figure It Out, I have with me Lily Geiger. Lily is the founder of Figlia, a non-alcoholic aperitivo brand. I am so excited to have you here to talk about this. There are so many things I want to get into with you. Welcome to Trying to Figure It Out.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, you're visiting LA right now from New York. Are you originally from New York?
I am, but
Where?
I'm from the Upper West Side.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm from Westchester, so we have
Love
some
it.
New York in us. You have a non-alcoholic aperitivo brand called Figlia. Can you tell me a little bit about the brand and how it started?
Yeah, so I started Figlia in 2020. It's a non-alcoholic aperitivo. So it's similar to like a Campari or Aperol, but it has no added sugar, no alcohol, obviously, no preservatives. We use all natural ingredients and juices. And we also give a percentage of our proceeds to Partnership to End Addiction. And we're members of 1% for the Planet.
That's amazing. Yeah. Congratulations. I saw that you guys celebrated your 2-year anniversary recently. It's so exciting.
It's so weird. It's crazy.
Has it flown by?
So quickly. I mean, especially once like we gained momentum and actually started having our products out in the world. And by our, I mean me and my like amazing 2 friends that work with me. But yeah, I can't believe it's been a little over 2 years now.
It's amazing. So did you start the company originally by yourself, come up with the idea by yourself, and then brought like people on with you, or do you have a co-founder?
No, so I founded the company. I basically started Figlia stemming from my own personal experience. Growing up, my dad was an alcoholic and passed away from alcoholism. So was super motivated and passionate about coming up with a product that would be exciting for someone who doesn't drink for whatever reason, you know, whether they're in recovery or not, just coming up with something that tastes sophisticated but doesn't actually mimic the flavors of alcohol.
Right. It's honestly such a genius idea. And I know a lot of people in my life who struggle with addiction. And I think that having other options is such an amazing thing to have when, I mean, if you think about like 10 years ago, that just wasn't a thing. It was either like you drink or you're having a Diet Coke. And now there's so many things that can be done. Even like half of our social plans revolve around like, hey, let's get a drink.
Exactly.
And it's cool that there's been so much progress made, and it's amazing that you're a part of that. So congratulations.
No, it's a great industry to be in. I love it.
You obviously created this yourself. What was the process of actually like starting it? Like, do you actually make the drink? Did you have like a test kitchen phase where you were just mixing things together yourself, trying everything? What, like, do you have a factory? Like, what's the process of actually making the product?
So I actually found a recipe developer in Los Angeles during COVID, but it was really funny because we couldn't see each other in person, obviously. So we would just like ship all of our like samples back and forth and just make like notes and revisions. But it was kind of like doable actually. And even me, who's never been in the beverage space ever, it was, it came together pretty quickly.
That's amazing.
It was awesome.
I didn't even know that was like a thing.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so you mentioned a little bit about what led you to start this company, and if you're comfortable with it, I kind of want to go a little bit more in depth about your experience growing up in the family dynamic that you had. So what was your relationship with your dad like growing up?
So growing up with an alcoholic parent was pretty isolating, I would say, because I feel like you can't really talk about it openly, or else people wouldn't trust having their kids over for play dates and knowing your parent is an alcoholic, or even, you know, having kids in the car with your parent. Like I felt like it was really would have been really bad for my dad's reputation eventually. As my dad got worse, like everyone knew. So I'd say that. I also was an only child, and my parents were divorced, so that meant like spending just like a lot of time with my parents separately, and like a lot of time with my dad separately. So I think that was pretty hard, just, you know, trying to find help or find any type of like resources about it. I felt like I didn't know anything at the time. No one really gives a child a handbook how to deal with anything like that. Exactly.
How was your relationship with your mom once your parents split? Was your relationship with both parents kind of split evenly until things progressed and got worse? Or how did you kind of like navigate early divorcehood, I guess you could call it?
I think that it was definitely more centered around my mom, just because that's kind of the nature of typical divorces. You're like mostly with your mom, and then you see your dad like every other weekend and like Wednesday or something.
Yeah.
So I saw my dad then, but my mom also got remarried pretty soon after my dad. So I felt like then I was more so like reaching for my dad because I felt a little thrown off by that whole situation. So yeah, I spent a lot of time with my dad, and I think my mom would also give him more time than like he originally got in like a, you know, contract.
Was there a point where as you were like, as things progressed, that you weren't really able to spend time with your dad anymore, or that your mom didn't want you to spend time with your dad anymore?
Yeah, I actually remember when I was little, I was in therapy when my parents got a divorce. Just to,
everyone, you know, it's a formality.
Yeah, especially in Manhattan, it's like, all right,
throwing a 5-year-old in therapy now.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It is crazy. So I was in therapy, and my dad had been driving while drinking or while drunk with me in the car, and I remember being old enough to know like I probably shouldn't tell my mom that because that would result in us not getting to hang out anymore. And I told the therapist, and then, you know, the therapist, like, if you tell me anything that could be
a threat,
harmful, or then she told my mom, and I didn't see my dad for like almost a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really hard.
Yeah.
Is your mom currently still married, or is she no longer married?
My mom is no longer married. Yeah.
We have a lot in common.
No, there's like tea. My mom actually she's gonna be like, why did you air all my shit out on?
Trust me, anyways, I've gotten that phone call.
She gets it. She actually got remarried after that second marriage. So my mom married my dad, then she married this guy, then they got a divorce, and then she married another guy when I went to college, and he actually passed away, unfortunately. So now my mom is single.
Oh my gosh.
If anyone's out there looking for a hot, almost 60-year-olds. Manhattan-based hottie.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Are you close with your mom now?
Yeah.
That's
sure.
great.
Yeah.
So how would you explain your dad's alcoholism impacting you and your mom, you know, as a unit as you got older?
My dad had the type of addiction where he would go on and off spurts of relapsing. And then when he would go on a bender, it would be like wake up drinking throughout the day, not showing up to work type of like really dark stuff, almost to the like every time when you go on a bender like that, you need to detox with medical assistance. So that resulted in going to the hospital every time. So my mom would go with me most of the time. And that was in a phase where I actually wasn't living with my dad. So we would go, you know, get him from his apartment and take him. And so she was a part of that. But other than that, I would say when I lived with my dad, like I felt super alone in that for sure. Even though my mom was always, you know, around, it just was. And even when my dad died, it's like I kind of felt like I was the only one who really cared the most out of everyone because my dad wasn't married and I have no siblings. So like no one's like feeling it the way that I am.
Right. And you feel like it's almost like a responsibility to like carry that. Like,
well, yeah, there's no one else to do it. Like legally, there was like no one else to handle his like, should we cremate him? You have to go actually do that. You know, you have to like sign off on all these things, liquidate everything. Like that was all ultimately like my decision via, you know, some family members who were really helpful. But like that was up to me, which was like crazy during college, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot for anyone to go through. It's very traumatizing for sure. Was your dad open about his struggles? Like what was the open dialogue, or if there was any, what was that with you guys?
I think it would vary. I mean, there were times where he would call us and be like, I need to go detox now. I need you to help me get there.
Yeah.
And then there would be times where it's like, you need to go detox. I don't want to go yet. But he was super open about his addiction. It was not a secret, at least with family. We all knew. And he would go to AA. He would talk to sponsors. He would do outpatient. He went to rehab a few times. Like it was just known, and he wasn't trying to hide that, which I really admire because I've also dealt with family members that are super in denial, and it kind of makes you feel like you're crazy. And for someone 100%. Like me who's like so on, you know, with that, I really pick it up quickly, and I'm like, no, there is a problem. It's like, no, it's not. And then it's like, well,
100%.
I can't be a part of that.
You were how old when you lost your dad?
I was 20.
Okay. So you were in college. Can you talk a little bit about like what your grieving process looked like and what it was like to be in a college environment where, you know, there's not that many people who can relate to what you're going through or that kind of a loss? What was that like for you?
It was really weird because I felt like I went to college when my dad got the worst. Yeah. Which for me, who is, when it comes to that stuff, like was such a control freak and was just so, I guess just frustrated not being able to control that person and to help them.
For sure.
It was also probably really good for me to have that break. So I kind of felt like I was distracted, which was really helpful. Even though you can only be so distracted because it's like your parent and like you're always waiting for that call if you're in the phase of addiction that I was in with my dad. So, yeah, I think I kind of saw it coming in a way. And I will like never forget the moment when I found out. I had just come back from spring break and it was St. Patrick's Day. It was the day after my birthday. And I was at a party with my friends and it was a day party. So we went home and it was like probably like 5 p.m. And my friend texted me and she said, your mom needs you to call her. And I was like, well, why wouldn't my mom just call me? Like, why is my mom texting a friend to tell me that I need to call her? Like, that's bizarre. And I was like, this happened because my dad didn't reach out to me on my birthday. Heard nothing. So I was like, something is up. And my mom called me and told me, and I just like left the next day. And I luckily had really great friends who supported me, but I only went home for like a week because I didn't want this to now screw up my timeline for graduating from college. And I had worked so hard to get into college. And the school that I went to, I applied ED to, and I got my acceptance letter when my dad was in rehab, and it went to his address. So like I almost actually didn't get to go to the school because they had like a deadline, and they were like, if you don't get back to us, and I didn't even know that I got in. And so my mom like put up, so the whole thing I was just like, I'm not letting, this is already almost screwed up everything, and just like in general is fucking up my life for lack of a better word. And so I was just like, no, I'm going back. But I think retroactively, I almost wish I did more about it. Went to therapy then. And then right after college, I moved to LA and I wasn't in therapy or anything. And then it wasn't until COVID where I was like kind of alone with my thoughts a little more. And then decided to do this where I'm like talking about it constantly. So I feel like I'm like actually grieving the most now. Even though I was, you know, the shock of it, even if you're expecting it, is the most crazy experience of your life.
There's no, like you can expect it, but you can't anticipate what it's actually
it's just feel like. It's the worst feeling in the world. And I try to like describe it as just like, for me at least, it was the feeling of holy shit, I'm never gonna see that person again. I can't talk to them anymore. Like that line of communication is forever cut off. And I'm totally like into the spiritual stuff, but like I don't believe that like every sunset is my dad or some shit. Like I'm not doing that because it's over, right? Like and I'm sure maybe in another life we'll see each other. I maybe believe in that. But it just felt like your life, just like a part of your whole soul just gets cut out and just discarded.
Do you feel like you've found peace with the situation? And do you harbor resentment or anger? Or do you feel like you're past that point and you can, you know, feel at peace with what has happened and where you're at now?
I think I feel a lot more at peace for sure. I mean, it's also 7 years behind me. So like I've had time to like process what's
for sure
happened. Of course, like I think resentment comes in and out. Like it's just really hard to kind of come to terms with it at times. But yeah, I'm definitely at peace with it now.
Would you say that who you are now as an adult was shaped by the experiences that you had? And like with that, what are your goals as an adult? Like, do you have things? I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's tons of things you want to do differently, but can you like touch on that a little more deeply? Yeah, it definitely shaped me as a person, as a human, and as an adult. I think that I'm super cautious around alcohol. I always have been. I think that because my life was so disjointed with divorce and the remarriage and another remarriage and death and addiction, I'm just like, I really want to have like an awesome life moving forward because it's just been crazy. And you know, I don't think I will be a big drinker. I think I could see myself not drinking at all, especially when I have kids. And like I really want kids. That's like so important to me. And like being in a really positive relationship, like my boyfriend's so awesome, and like choosing the right partner, like I feel like those are all things that I've prioritized. And just like professionally, I mean, starting Figlia was so awesome, and getting me talking about this again. I think it kind of can feel a little corny sometimes, and like almost like marketing, like talking, people are like, well, what like, you know, made you want to start it? And when I say it, it sounds so like I keep repeating this story, but it's my like life, right? It's like my personal story. So it's that's been a little weird, but I still think that
it's what people are really gravitating towards, and people are really loving having those conversations. Totally. And it's something I wish I had when I was that age. But yeah, I think overall, like, I don't think that filia is like my purpose in life, but I feel like talking about this is more my purpose in life. So I don't know where that will take me, whether it's just like having more conversations with people and figuring out what that means, or yeah, I feel like even working with Partnership to End Addiction to like get more involved with them, like that feels like it's been really meaningful.
Well, I think it's super valuable for you to be this vulnerable and, you know, share your story deeper than just like, what is the brand? Yeah. And I think the brand is amazing and I couldn't support it more, but I think it's, you know, even if just one person can take something away from this, I think it's like a important enough thing that helping one person is an amazing thing to be able to say that you did. Is it generational in your family to have alcoholism? Was your father's father or mom, or like, what is the relationship with alcohol like in your extended family?
So my great grandfather, my grandma's dad, was an alcoholic and ended up committing suicide. Oh, wow. And that definitely played a role in my relationship with my grandma when my dad got really bad. She'd be like, I've dealt with this before. This is what's going to happen. By the way, like, it was just really scary to hear as a kid. She's like, this is so bad. This is horrible. And I just stopped talking to her for some parts of it, because I was just like, I can't be talking about this all day and reminded of how bad this is. Like, it's clear, it's very obvious that this is a shit show. So yeah, it's been in my family, and I have other family members that definitely struggle with it, and even on my mom's side, for sure. Like, it's so common that everyone's family has somebody. Once you start talking about it with people, if I open up first and I'm so like honest, people are like, oh yeah, me too. But otherwise, it's like so swept under the rug, it's so taboo, and people don't want to talk about it.
Totally. So kind of back to your relationship with alcohol. What was your relationship like with alcohol in college? Did you feel a little bit more, you know, like timid towards like sorority life or Greek life and drinking and partying in college? What was that like for you?
Well, I grew up in Manhattan, so kids were drinking from a pretty young age, and it wasn't like beer pong and that sort of thing. It was like they're ordering martinis at a you know, sushi restaurant downtown that will serve underage. So already I definitely wasn't like new to the thought of my peers drinking and me drinking. I definitely drank. I can't say that I ever had a situation that like scared me. I never took it that far. But I drank in college 100%. I definitely drank more than I was used to, just because that was the culture, and the school that I went to was pretty heavy on drinking. And I was in a sorority, and I think that was also kind of like a culture shock for me. I went to like a really small school in Manhattan with 21 kids in my grade. So it was just like such a new world, and the school that I went to was like super artsy, and like we didn't really use computers. Like, it was like I felt like I was like in a cult and left the cult, and I was like, where am I? What is going on? So even the sorority and like the drinking culture with Greek life, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I did not fuck with that. Alas, I still partook.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's terrifying. Like,
it is. It's really sad to see, like, actually. A lot of people, I feel like, develop those habits.
100%. Really. Like, it's just really strange to be our age and start to know what it feels like to finish a long day of work and be like, I need a glass of wine.
Right.
Or like to have a bad day and be like, I need a drink. All of those thoughts are so like intense, and we're so young. So it's such a weird like time in our lives to be like figuring out our relationships with alcohol. And if like we're at this age and don't have good relationships with alcohol, like, what does that look like for the rest of your life? Like, committing to a lifetime of sobriety at 25 is a really hard thing to commit to. And to think where you'll be. Like, what if 20 years from now you're, you know, in a better state of mind and your relationship can be different? It's really hard to know like when you're crossing a line. So I think as I'm getting older, I do empathize with people who do struggle with alcoholism more, because I think I could see how easy it is for the lines to get blurred and how easy it is to, you know, cross over to the other side. So it's really crazy. I wish there were like more tips to know, like
indicators of this could be
like
an issue.
There's obviously like indicators that are more clear. I don't know.
I think that there could be more you know, information on just like letting people know more about the fact that this is a disease, because I feel like there's a lack of sympathy for someone who's an addict.
Yeah.
When they're getting, you know, so bad that it could actually end their life. And, you know, that's really hard to talk to people about when your parent is the person that's, you know, battling with addiction and has that disease. People are like, is it a disease? Like, I don't know. And I feel like I see movies about addiction and like the parents always like abusive or like, and that was not the case. Granted, when someone's drunk, they say a lot of things that they don't mean, and that often relates in something really, you know, horrible they can say to you, and like voicemails, and I feel like just raising your voice in general, and yeah, just that part I definitely just could not get on board with. I was like, I'm not dealing with this. But I don't think that addiction looks one way. I think it comes in like all different shapes and sizes.
I agree with that completely. How often, like realistically, would you say that you have a drink?
Not often. I will pretty much only have alcohol if it's a glass of wine and someone's like, oh my God, this is a special glass of wine. Like,
got it.
It's been aging for however long, and like you should give it a try with this like food rating. And I'm like, okay. But I don't really feel the need ever anymore. And once I go so long without it and see how great I feel, I'm like, no, I don't want to throw off this good thing I have going.
For sure.
So not often. And my boyfriend doesn't drink that much either.
That's great.
So that's been great. Which is like, it's all for different reasons too, which is funny.
It's really interesting because there's such a wide spectrum of,
like I have my whole situation. Like that's why I don't drink, right? And he has Crohn's disease. So he, for his stomach, can't. And I'm like, there's so many reasons why people aren't drinking.
100%.
And I feel like if you're a woman getting to the age of 30, everyone's like, oh, are you pregnant? I'm like, what? Why is that always the question that women get, like in your 30s? Just
because you're not drinking.
Yeah.
You must be
like,
pregnant.
no, I just don't want to be hungover and a monster.
Totally
Sorry.
fair. It can be hard to find a good non-alcoholic option. So what has it been like getting Figlia out on the shelves and like actually, you know, marketing it and getting people to be drawn into the option of a non-alcoholic drink that still kind of makes you feel like you're in the same environment as other people who might be drinking or whatever the situation is?
I knew how important it would be to invest in our branding, but I think that it really shows through now that we're actually on the market and can see how much people love it. I think branding and taste are just like, you really have to take your time and work with the right people. And we did that. And so that's why we haven't really been like cranking out a million SKUs, because like every time we put something out there, we want it to be absolutely perfect. And I feel like you really mastered it with this first flavor. But I'm still surprised. I mean, I think that we, out of most of our competitors, we have no... Up until now, we have outside funding, but we did not have outside funding up until like literally a month ago. So
congratulations.
Being so frugal with our decisions and just really like being super intentional on how we're going to spend our money, I think made us super aware of every department of like how this beverage comes together. So like I totally know what's going on with ops and sales, and I'm actually going in and doing all the tastings and the demos and that sort of thing. That's something I'm really grateful for now, because I feel like we have really gotten to know this brand and this product, and I feel like I've been super involved, and that's really invaluable, I think. And yeah, I mean, it just, I'm surprised I see it on the shelves next to all of our competitors that have like millions and millions of dollars in funding and like a ton of employees. So it's an honor.
That's amazing. This is what the can looks like. Do you have other bottling structures? Like what other products does it come in?
So we have a bottle. It's a 750 milliliter bottle. It's a concentrate. So you would usually pour that over ice with sparkling water or tonic water in a mocktail, cocktail, however you like to serve it. And then the can is a pre-made spritz. So it's the perfect ratio of the concentrate, sparkling water, and lemon.
Yeah. I love the packaging.
It's so cute.
It's really cute. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about like the flavoring and what your goal was?
Yeah. So we basically went in wanting it to taste sophisticated but not trigger the taste of alcohol. Doing that is hard. You don't want it to be too bitter. Getting the right color was very hard. because you're working with all natural
Right.
extracts and you're not using a preservative. So like every other product looked kind of murky, and I was like, we can't have that. We need to be cute in color, and we mastered that. And I'm really grateful because I think that a lot of people will see it in a glass and be like, oh, this actually feels up to par with what someone else who's drinking alcohol looks like and tastes like.
I think they look so cute.
Thank you. I agree.
So you just mentioned that you wanted to make sure that it didn't mimic flavors of alcohol. Can you touch on like your opinions on like competitors in the space that do make drinks that mimic flavors, and can you share a little bit why you chose not to do that and like what the pros and cons are to both sides?
Yeah, I mean, for someone who's in recovery, it's really unhelpful, I think, to taste alcohol if you're like actively every day working towards not doing that. So for instance, if you have like any non-alcoholic beer, it still tastes like a beer. If you have non-alcoholic whiskey and tequila and gin, that still tastes like the original. So it's pretty hard, I think, mentally.
Triggering.
But I think it's great for people who do like the taste of alcohol and want to have that flavor, but not actually get a buzz on. So no qualms, but I just think for us that wasn't going to align really with my story. If like first and foremost I'm doing this for the sober community, however most of our demographic actually doesn't identify as fully sober. I think that we're still honoring them first and foremost, and then everyone else that enjoys it who's not even fully sober is a perk.
Yeah, for sure. I know you said right now you're kind of just, you don't know if this is like your end goal or your end game or, you know, where you see yourself 10 years from now, but do you have anything in the pipeline for the brand? And do you feel like you kind of have an idea of where you see it going in the next 5 years? Yeah,
I mean, I'm super passionate about the brand. I think that when I say like personally, I just feel like talking about this, I've realized is so important. And I think as I have more conversations with people who have dealt with the same thing, I realize like this conversation's not over. Like it needs to continue to be had. So I like really want to work on doing that, which takes a lot of time. And I want to be thoughtful with how I do that. But as for Figlia, I mean, we definitely want to have more products out there. We always want to continue to have more like events and opportunities for people to come try the product and to interact with us and to have those conversations. So more of that, I think, will be really great for us.
I saw the product was recently featured in Vogue, which is amazing. How have you marketed the brand, and how have you gotten it to a place where, you know, you're being recognized by these companies? For any young female entrepreneurs out there, what was the process for you of, you know, actually getting the name out there?
Well, we have a really great PR team. Shout out Caro. But I will say it just takes like you staying up late and just cold emailing people after your workday. Like I feel like so many stockists we have, restaurants I have just reached out to or they've reached out to me. But I think that if you really want to try to keep up with the momentum of your competitors and you don't have the money or the team, you just got to do it yourself. And I think that's what we did. Well, I know that's what we did, but I think I can attribute that hard work to where we're at right now, even though we still have so much more to do. I think that's what got us on the same articles as some of these bigger companies and on the same shelves as them. That's been our superpower. It's just being kind of energized and passionate about it.
That's amazing. Okay, so what advice would you give to someone who was in your shoes family-wise and is probably, you know, anywhere from 10 years old to 20 years old? What advice would you give to them if they are going through what you are going through or something similar?
I think just like find whatever peace means to you, whatever, like if that's a person, if that's another family member, like someone who makes you feel safe, and finding that just to try to like ground yourself, because it's so hard. And it's like, especially for me who didn't have siblings, or my other parent wasn't living under the same roof as my parent who was struggling with this, like having good friends, opening up to people, not bottling it up inside. A lot, like I said, I didn't feel like I could disclose to like, you know, someone I met on the street, but like I definitely felt like because I had great friends and a community, that got me through it. So I suggest just finding your peace and staying there.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. Before we end, in every episode, I do this thing called Alpiece 3, and it's basically just, I love music. I used to work in the music industry, and I love incorporating music into the podcast. So I always do this. I pick I have my guests pick 3 songs. I usually try to make it fit the theme of the episode. So I guess if Filia could have like 3 songs that kind of go with the vibe of the drink and the flavor of the drink, what would you say those 3 songs would be? Like, it's a hot summer day and you're at the beach and you're drinking Filia. What songs are you listening to while you're at the beach?
I love this. I'm like a closeted music girly. Like, I feel like
that.
My friends who know me know that I'm like Miss Music. I've always been Miss Music, but I am not like, check out my Spotify
playlist.
Like, I just can't be that girl. I won't allow it. So I love Just Like Heaven by The Cure. That song like is probably the most played every year on my Spotify Wrapped. My boyfriend's like, what's wrong with you?
I love that.
It's just like such a good song. And I love Soak Up the Sun by Sheryl Crow. That's like my favorite driving song if I'm like driving alone, especially. Like, I'd be coming back from college and would come home with like no voice. My mom was like, what was going on? I was like driving through like Virginia, West Virginia, like blasting that song from North Carolina. Amazing. Okay, I love this song. It's like such a good energy. August 10 by Khruangbin. You're sipping on your fifi, you're vibing with your pals. And I love good energy.
Amazing.
Right? It's just like,
That's amazing. Okay. Well, thank you. We'll definitely be adding those. I really can't thank you enough for being so vulnerable and open with us. I'm just really impressed by you. So thank you for sharing everything.
Oh, thank you. That was so sweet. Thank you for having me.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Trying to Figure It Out. We will be back next week with another episode. And Lily, before you go, can you tell us where people can find your product and find you and where they can buy the product as well?
Yes. So we are online always. You can also find us in 500 locations in the US, but just plug in your zip code on the website and you'll be able to kind of see what's closest to you.
I guess we'll end the episode with a little cheers.
Little cheers. Oh,
I'm gonna reach.
Can I even like? Cheers, cheers.
Thank you again, and we will see you next week.
Amazing.
It's really good.